We are live with our bonus episode with Julie Tritch, who is coming all the way from Miami to join us today. Is that right? That's where you're located?
No, I'm in Mississippi.
You're in Mississippi. You just work with, and you're Tampa. I don't know where I came up with that. I love it.
Emily is in Tampa.
Where
She's
did I
in
come
St.
up?
Pete.
Today is our 3-5 Projector Experience bonus episode, and you can listen to her main episode at Outstanding Women Leaders when it comes out next week. So, Julie, you lead with human design. You teach other people how to lead with human design, and you have a very unique human design as that you are a projector. You are in the 20% of the population here to advise and guide energies. And according to the system, you're going to be our future leader. And you're also really unique because you have a defined head. You are in the 30% of the population with me that thinks very differently than 70% of the population that gets distracted by all those other systems and ideas. And you have this 4323 channel of just unique insights and this very simplistic way of breaking things down. In addition to that, you also have this great energy that is here for teamwork and also great at sales. But before we dive in there, tell me a little bit about, how did learning about the fact that you were a projector shift things for you? What opened up as you started to understand your chart and design?
So many things. So many things. So I think the first time I was introduced to human design, it was just like wave after wave after wave of like fully understanding why I was at the place that I was in my life at that time. And connecting a bunch of dots of like, yes, you were in this corporate industry and you were in this super fast-paced industry to learn, to hone, three-line, learn through experience, right? So it gave me so many opportunities to learn and to grow and trial and error with the different companies that I had worked for and the evolution of the different roles that I played within those companies. And it was just, literally my mind was blown when I was like, oh my God. Like I probably said, oh my God, like a million times because it made everything make sense. And at that time, I already knew that the body of work I was in and going into with leadership and business and combining these things, I already knew that that's exactly where I was meant to be. But it was also a nice little like validation of it. And it made, like I said, the career evolution makes so much sense for me because I went from like supervisor to manager of basically like a small plant is what it would have been like, to into safety and then into training was my last role. And like you said, I have a way of breaking things down. So I could very easily make the complex things, and we're manufacturing automotive parts, right? So I often had people ask me, are you an engineer? Did you go to school for engineering? And I'm like, no, but I play one on TV. Like that was always my joke. I'm like, no. So yeah, like the first experience was, it was just mind blowing and it made so many things make sense, especially the exhaustion, like realizing that I was operating in this field that's not for me and the way that it was set up. Because I think that field can be for anyone. It's just the way that it's currently set up in the current paradigm of like on call 24/7, you're going, working what feels like a million hours and then not having any energy once I get home or on the weekends and just completely needing to crash out. And, I'm out of that generator energy now. So I just crash and then getting sick too. And like it's like everything would build up inside and I'd be hanging on to it. Because back then I didn't know how to move energy and get it out of my system in the way I do now. And so it would just build up and it would cause problems in my life. So
yeah, I mean, as a projector, for people that don't know what that means, like you don't have your own energy source. I don't usually tell projectors this, but I will because you're a seasoned one, is like you're the true energy vampire of the world, and that you do need to hook into other people's energies. And as soon as you unhook, you are going to crash. And that is design because you're meant to be very selective about what you say yes to and whatever you use your energy for. If it makes you feel successful, you're going to feel good and sleep well. And if it doesn't, you're going to feel bitter and you're still going to sleep well because you don't have your own energy source. And I love parents who have multiple children who are like, this kid was a great sleeper, but the rest of these kids I can't figure out. Like, oh, that's a kid that doesn't have their own energy source. And they're only 30% of the population. although that population is growing. I just had a conversation with a woman who talked about how 60% of the kids that are born are going to be manifestors like this year, because of the way that the wheel is set up, which is fascinating to think about. We're going to have a generation of kids who are not here to do.
The manifestor energy is super interesting too. I love it. I just love it. I love all of it so
Yeah, the
much.
two of you guys like to be around each other because you get to stay in your own energy type in that sense of it, which is nice. And what's interesting also about your chart is you have this wide open identity center. And what I find for so many clients that they're trying to figure out, what is my identity? Who am I? What's my purpose? Where will I go to find my purpose? You're not meant to have a fixed purpose and identity, and you're meant to really be an example for us of what it looks like to just be the identity that might need to be in the room. And what they talk about with this is that you tend to settle in an identity that feels good for you. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what your experience has been around that, knowing that you do have this open identity center and you have quite a few energies reaching to try to be into that energy center as well.
So I think from speaking specifically with the identity and identity centers, it makes a lot of sense. Because while there are aspects of things that I do that I absolutely love, I'm always like, but what about this? Like, can we pull this into? Can we pull this into? And I'm always looking at like the human as like the collective, not just one piece, right? Not just the leadership aspect, not just like what their design is or what I could teach them through human design, but it's for me, I also love learning and teaching people about health and wellness and about like cool tricks and hacks that are like either forgotten or not well known. And just, of course, the three line again, like just I trial so many things. And then, like, once I feel like I understand it well enough that I can explain it, articulate it well, and give people multiple options that would work best for them, then I'm like, ooh, let me now talk about this, right? And so yes, just yes.
Yeah. And you're meant to be wise for us. Did you have time in your life where you felt like you needed to figure out who you were? I'm always curious what that experience is when you don't know that you're not supposed to have a fixed identity. You're just supposed to play with identity.
Yeah. So I feel like that was a huge part of childhood and young adulthood for me was like, you know how when you ask a kid, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it was always changing. Like I was like, oh, I want to be a scientist, or oh, I want to be an author. And then it was like, oh, I want to be a veterinarian, or like all of these different things, right? A lot of medical things too. And I had this also once I got into the workforce within the career that I went to school for, because my degree is in organizational leadership and supervision, a concentration in manufacturing specifically. So I got into the field, and the first go around did not go well. Like it did not go well. And I'm like, oh my God, did I pick wrong? Like, did I completely fuck up my life? Like, what? And it was this existential crisis of, do I throw it all out? Do I throw the degree that I just spent years getting out the door? And like, I thought about going back to school for nursing, and I thought about this twice in life. And I was like, ooh, like, you're right. So like, it's so fascinating to me when people are like young kids as well, when they're thinking that they have to have it figured out and they have to know. And I'm like, but really you don't, because you're going to go through several iterations in your life and evolutions where even if you stick with one thing, I think through the majority of your life, you're still going to go through evolutions of that, where it's going to be like deeper layers of it and maybe has a different flair and flavor. And so once I embraced like constant evolution as a theme in my life, I just roll with it now, and it's beautiful and I love it.
Yeah, that's such an important wisdom to bring people, as I see on the LinkedIn where everybody is looking for claiming their identity, find out who you are, know your values, write these. It's all words, it's salad. And what you're really describing is a beautiful experience of like trying on different things. Like as a kid, I was going to be a teacher. And when I was told I've been a teacher in many different lifetimes, like, well, that makes sense. My identity center connects to my power source, to my intuition. Like I just knew that that was what I was going to do. even though I've had many careers. I've got that third line in my attractor field. So but I had this identity crisis of this shattering when I sold my business. I got divorced and like, well, who am I? And now I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a soul. Your purpose is just to be yourself.
Yeah.
Your purpose is to allow life to surprise you along the way. It's what I love about the Open Identity Center is we don't have to have all of these little crises that we invent in our mind when we're not holding on to an identity so tightly.
Yeah, I think it's super beautiful because, like you said, even if you have a defined identity center, like there's still evolutions, there's still depth, there's still differences with what you're going to do, and especially if we look at like astrology and how that plays a part into it, and the Saturn return, right? Like when Daddy comes into play, it just adds this nuanced layer and these dynamics that are like unexpected, but also can be very beautiful.
And even though your identity center is open, everyone has a driving force. And what I love about your story is your unconscious driving force is the gift of oversight. And when you talk about your roles and what you've done, and you're already an advisor type, so you're already ready to guide people, but you're really driven to provide the oversight that we need, and to witness. And to what better way to witness people than to be open in the identity center so that you can truly witness what you're seeing from a place of wisdom versus a place of knowledge, which is the opposite of wisdom.
Although I do think both of those can go hand in hand, right? Like I definitely love learning and I love having that baseline and I do love the knowledge piece of it. But like you said, like wisdom is totally different. And I think there's also like if people want to look at science and what science says, science can only take us so far. And we know it's ever evolving. And there are practical, to me, it's practical, but there are practical wisdoms of like the body and of plants and just of life that you don't see in science. Science hasn't quite caught up to it yet. And those are really beautiful things as well.
Yeah, wisdom requires observation, and science keeps forgetting that as soon as you observe something, you've changed the outcome simply by witnessing it,
Yep.
which is what makes it so beautiful that you get to witness things because you are open. I mean, wisdom is just being open. Part of how I can bring such wisdom to help parent is while I was a teacher and I've been around kids so much, but I don't have my own. And so I don't have this knowledge that clouds my ability to be able to observe and to see things from an objective perspective. You also have this open, energy source we talked about. This is what makes you a projector. And your core talent is hanging out of this energy source. You have this core talent of I don't know how you would describe it because I have this too, but it's almost like we're here for endings. Like your core talent is really helping people end cycles. It's about cycles. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what your experience has been there.
So this is I'll paint this from the perspective of like dating and relationships because that has been, well, it's been one of my biggest teachers. And now I'm no stranger to like not everyone gets to stay for the length of a lifetime, right? Like some people are for a season and some are for a reason. I always noticed, and it was kind of, did you know that movie? I think it's called Good Luck Chuck.
Yeah.
Where when she sleeps with a woman, then she goes on and gets married, right? I kind of had something similar in my life. And so I would date someone and be with someone, and then the next person that they would date, they would marry. And I'm just like, what is going on here? Like, what is this, right? But it's also like I can have one conversation with someone, and I've literally had someone tell me this before on a call, and she's like, I just got more from 35 minutes with you than I did $30,000 that I just paid to this other coach.
Yeah, I've heard that one too.
And I'm like, shit, like that lands, right? Like if you ever question, who you are, your value and worth for what you bring to the world, and then you have someone say, you just gave me more in 35 minutes than someone did in months, and then I paid $30,000 to you. I'm just like, shit, like, but yeah, and I've had another friend reflect this back to me too. Like, she's like, in one call, you were able to connect dots for me that I've been working on for years. Like, almost decades in some cases. And it was like boom, 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 just like item after item after item after item. And I'm like, I don't know. I just see what I see and I do what I do. And
yeah, it's so beautiful the way you describe it. That's why I call myself a truth teller. And usually, I've had a therapist for 7 years. Like I never knew this about my body and how to move through this. So very similar is our energy is really designed to come in this 42, and whatever is you, because people spiral. If we don't end a cycle properly, we will repeat it in the next cycle. And I've lived that too. And the problem was that I woke up and I'm like, I'm the only common denominator. I must be the problem. And then I had a coach who I didn't need to ever talk to her again. One session was all I need. She just looked at me and she said, maybe it's not about you. Maybe everybody else is just a dick. And that was a true statement. And I didn't believe her. So I kept paying her for coaching. But I didn't have the other half. That energy is for new beginnings. And so for us, sometimes we can rush the ending and then we'll have our new beginning, but we have to complete that cycle. So this is why I think energy is so interesting for people when you're hiring someone to work with, in the capacity that people hire you, the capacity people hire me, is you're really getting access to energy. And is that going to be energy that you're looking for? If you're looking to start something new, you got to finish what you have right so that you don't have to repeat that cycle again.
Yeah. And I think that piece about like, and I've said this for years, like, I know that I am not for everyone, right? Like I'm a very particular flavor and not everyone has that in their palate. So it's what truly works and what truly like connects people together. And is it the right fit or not the right fit? And I don't know about you, but I know that I can typically tell this within the first few minutes of a call with someone, of whether we're a good fit with each other or we're not a good fit. Caveat to that is sometimes, the ego will get on the way and I'll be like, not so sure. But I think the cool thing about my splenic authority is that it's like, just hang in there, right? Like I'll get that little whisper of like, just hang on, just wait, it's coming.
Yes, and that energy we haven't talked as much about, and that you are a splenic authority, meaning that you have an intuition that gives you your answer. You're not listening for a gut response that you're really listening for that whisper that you mentioned. And the way that my design is set up, I have so much in my intuitive center that to me, that is also what I hear. And I always get surprised by clients. I find that our wide open centers, that's where we get to be kind of like reflectors. Sometimes they surprise you. But yes, I also know that. That's why I always say one conversation is all it takes to know if it's right for you, right? We're either going to break a cycle in one session. Like, I don't need to see you ever again. Like, go live your life. Awesome. But that's that fifth line practicality that you bring as well. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit, the 44 is your driving force on your conscious side. It is about teamwork. And what I love about this energy is that when it works right, it doesn't interfere. And what I see for leaders so much is that they think if I interfere in this process, I can make it better. And the analogy I always use is if you leave two toddlers alone in a room and you hear them scream and fight, but you leave them alone, like we did when we were in the 80s, they will build forts. They will work their shit out together and they will come up with something. But as soon as we start to interfere and get involved, teamwork is really just naturally organizing, and there is chaos in the beginning. So what does that look like for you to like hold that tension and to be able to really like live in this place of we don't interfere and the team is going to figure it out?
So for me, it was a learning curve. And I think that learning curve came from like societal expectation and programming, right? And so it's like when you're in this like leadership and or managerial role, like more than other people. I have a very specific, for instance, that I love to reference here. When I was in the automotive field, I had, as a supervisor, I had one specific line that I was responsible for. And then as I was promoted up, then they moved one of my counterparts to take over the line that I used to have. And I had a really hard letting go process with that. And I remember looking, because the man that took it over was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I've chosen better, right? And I remember looking at him and saying, I'm doing it again, aren't I? I'm like coming in and I'm trying to do as if it's still mine. And he's like, yeah, you are. I'm like, okay, new rule from now on. When I do that, tell me to fuck off and leave. And then you got it. Like, you'll only have to do it with me a couple of times and then it'll be fine. Right. And he did once or twice. He's like, out. I'm like, okay, I got it. And I turn and walk away. Right. But I think that's the beauty of teamwork and of being like vocal and being communicative and being vulnerable in these spaces, is that you don't know everything and you never will. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter how long you study. And I know that that's probably a hard thing for one lines to learn, but you just are never going to know everything. And everyone, especially in team dynamics, like everyone brings this beautiful individuality and piece or pieces to the puzzle that we're not all going to have. And so we have to get out of our own way and take that step back and just say, the team, they can do it. They can, especially when we're adults, right? Like the team can handle it. The team can figure it out. And if you don't have enough things that you're already responsible for and doing without like meddling in the team business, right? And interfering and interjecting when not asked, then are you really doing what you're supposed to be doing? Are you really doing your job, right? Because I think this is also where a lot of leaders get tripped up too, is because they'll be so focused on like, how do I make the ship move faster or move forward, or where can I, and how do I interject? And it's like, no, homie, like that's not your job, right? You're not of these core people that are working on the project or whatever. Like you step out, you facilitate when needed, when asked, and when, requested. But other than that, it's kind of like parenting, right? It's the same thing, right? You just step back, because we all have to learn in our own time and in our own way, and we all do things differently as well. So I adore team dynamics. I absolutely love them. I thrive off them. But yeah, it's definitely, you have to know that dance of when to back off and when to pull out and when to be in and when to be, a more integral part. So.
Yeah, I like to use the 70% delegation rule. If someone can do it 70% as well as you, give it to them, because there's so much more learning in that 30% gap than if you wait until their 10% is like left. It takes forever to close that gap. But if they're able to close the majority of the gap themselves, they're going to be able to do it. And that does look like allowing a little bit of chaos, a little bit of self-organizing. This is my, whenever I talk to people about like difference between manager and leader, is a leader understands that people self-organize.
Yep.
Managers believe that if they manage them correctly, they can be organized. And that is what's so beautiful about the work you're doing and helping leaders lead by their own human design, but also you just bring this natural gift of teamwork and you show people how to get out of the way. I always think of sports analogies here as well, right? When I was a tennis player, my coach would come up, like I would lose every first match I ever played, like first set in college, I'm losing this match. And so senior year, my coach would just say, hey, if you hit every ball over the net and then you never hit it out of the lines, you're going to win every time. And then he just let me play. And you know what I did? I lost every first set and I won all the rest. But he just let me play. And to me, that's a big part of what you're talking about, is you allow people to be messy. You allow people to tinker. And that's the beauty of your public role. Your public role is really here to show us that it's okay to trial and error.
Yeah. So it's exciting. It's exciting, but it's also like, and like you were saying earlier, like the moving into the future, right? And so I think it's a huge pivotal time right now for lots of reasons. The landscape is tumultuous at best, and I'm excited to be able to support, leaders and leadership moving into this next evolution of what we all get to create together and what that looks like.
Yeah. We don't need, it's so funny that the people, we all want to be organized. We all want to look up towards leadership, when the reality is whenever there's a natural disaster, what you see is self-organization. And that's really what you're talking about. At work, when there are fires, allowing people to naturally self-organize is far more effective than whatever the C-suite is going to come up with. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing a bit about your experience, learning about being a projector and what that's meant for you. For those listening, you can go ahead and listen to our main episode. We're going to talk about Julie's backstory. Tell us a little bit about what we can hear there. You have a company that we'll be talking about. Yeah, just give us a little teaser before we head out.
So I don't even know how to give a little teaser. I'll try that. So basically left the corporate environment and with my best friend, and I was like, well,